streaming. I don't know why it's not showing up. But anyway, our theme for the year with Centers for Spiritual Living, our theme at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is Mystics, Masters, and Paths of Enlightenment. I don't know, that might change as we go through. I think it's still a pretty good anchor for the year. We're just going to see where things go. So anyway, my topic for today, as you saw, was fear. And there's a couple acronyms for fear that people use. One of them, if you've heard things like forget everything and run. Everybody's heard one. Forget everything and run. We're not doing that because we can't. But also false evidence of being real. You know, and that doesn't seem very helpful either at this point. What we're seeing around us is not false, it's things we're actually having to do. And then the acronym that I chose for today, which was Face Everything and Rise, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm still figuring out this technology here, and if you hang on a second, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this and get back to talking to you. Can y'all see me? This is so crazy.
I see you.
You see me. Thank you. That's what I need. And now I can see you again. And I'm going to go back to speaker view. So, so anyway, face everything and rise. Fear. I want to talk about that. Let me just collect myself. We probably need a prayer. What do y'all?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's have a prayer. Let me get centered and readjust. Take a moment. Just breathe in and release everything that's come before. And let's be concerned about what's to come later. And if whoever just came on would mute, I would appreciate that. I'm going to have to show what's going on here. Mute. Okay, great. All right. So we breathe in again. Nice deep breath, and as you breathe, you feel the tension kind of ease away from your neck, your shoulders, and any place else you might be feeling it. And just be present in this moment. So I know that there is truly only one power and presence in this universe, and we are all part of that. It is the power and presence that created us, that created the earth and the sky, the moon. We didn't create any of that. We came into it. And so I know that we are each part of that. And from that awareness, from that understanding, I can speak my part. I speak my piece into that universe, into that field of infinite potential, and I can claim it. And so I claim in this moment that there is peace, peace of mind, peace in our hearts, the knowing that everything that we need is right here, right now. This moment is perfect. This moment is exactly what it needs to be. And this moment is unfolding in Spirit's perfect and right divine order. So I give thanks for the technology that allows us to stay connected. I give thanks for all of the individuals who are within the sound of my voice that are joining us live or will be watching at some future time. I give thanks for all of them, knowing that we are all interconnected, that we are all bright lights, light beings, healers of different types and from different walks of life. And I just affirm that each one is a light wherever they go, wherever they are, that their presence serves to uplift the people around them. And so I release these words with gratitude, knowing that the technology flows smoothly, that everyone that needs to be here is here, that everything that needs to be said is said, everything that needs to be heard is heard. And I know that all is in perfect and right divine order. And so it is. Oof, all right. I needed that. And so it is. So, as I said, we're talking about fear, and the reason being, I think there's a lot of it. I don't know about you all, but I personally have been feeling like I'm on some kind of roller coaster. You know, sometimes I'm like, I'm great. You know, I've got a good frame of mind and I'm feeling good. And then something will happen that turns me into a tailspin. And then I have to pick myself up again. And I think from what I'm hearing from friends and seeing in social media that a lot of folks are feeling that way. So it's an important topic. And what I want to do with our time this morning is to really talk about the nature of fear, why it exists, its purpose, what is our best use of it, and for those moments when it comes up and you feel yourself getting into that mode of even panic, as happens for people, that you can bring yourself back down and continue to function and actually use that fear to drive you. So I have a PowerPoint, and we're going to know that the technology works and that you get to see what and understand what you need to see and understand today. So here we go again. I'll share my screen. I want to talk to you first about the anatomy of fear. And let's go on the current slide. So everybody knows that's a brain, right? Everybody knows that's a brain. All right, there's essentially three parts, and that's a very simplified, explanation. But the part of your brain that handles the things you don't have to think about, your digestion, your breathing, your reflexes, we call that the functional brain, and that's like your brain stem, right? The next part of your brain that's really important is the midbrain. It's also called the limbic system or the emotional brain, and that's where fight, flight, and freeze sit. That's where those originate. And then there's the part of the brain that makes us much smarter than other species. Well, I guess that may be questionable. But anyway, that's the part of our brain that's responsible for thinking and for logic and for reason. And you can see problem solving, communication, rationality. So I'm going to pause the share. Now, can you see me? You're all seeing me.
You're already seen on the corner of the screen with the slide.
Okay, so I want to show you just a little analogy that I use when I teach this stuff. So imagine that this is a model of your brain, okay? This part here is like the brain stem. That's the part that I was telling you is responsible for your reflexes and digestion, things like that. We'll say this part here is that mid part of the brain that is responsible for fight, flight, and freeze. And this is the part that covers all of it, right? That's your higher thinking part. So what happens to us when we get into a mode of fear, and some of you will know this from your own experience, if you've ever been so scared that you lost the ability to speak or that the words just didn't come out right, we call that flipping your lid. And what happens is that that center part of your brain, your fight, flight, or freeze, takes over, and you're no longer thinking in your rational problem-solving mind that is responsible for communication and for talking and things like that. So we call it flipping your lid. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen again. Zoom share. So some things you need to know about fear that are really important to know. First of all, it's a basic emotion of the brain, right? It is a natural emotion. It is hardwired into our system from the time that we're born or before that. Its purpose is for our survival. That's why we get afraid. Fear is meant to move you into action and to keep you safe. We also know that suppressing fear, you don't have to flip your lid to suppress, actually at that point you've expressed it. But when you start feeling that fear, there are things that we're supposed to do with that. And we know that suppressing fear pushing it down, continually pushing it down, can actually damage your health. And we also know that we can override fear with that thinking part of our brain. So fear is the basic, is our basic emotion. And we all have a stress response. What happens when we get in fear? So these are some of the physical reactions that happen when fear happens, right? Your brain causes the secretion of hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, and those things are meant to move you into action, right? To keep you safe, to get you away from the thing that is threatening you. Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your breathing gets fast and shallow, and your gut shuts down. So what is happening is when you're in that mode of fear is that your body is getting ready to run, and it's going to get rid of everything that may possibly hold it back. So if you've ever been so afraid you literally, urinated on yourself or something, that's super scared, and that's real. That's what happens, and it means that your body is getting you ready for fight, flight, or freeze. So the stress response then looks different, and of course we're wired from the caveman times when there were saber-toothed tigers and God knows what else chasing after us. Our body still reacts the same to fear, whether it's an actual physical fear that we're confronted with, or a different kind of fear, a fear that is more to our social status or to our concerns about our safety, and so forth. So here's your fight, flight, and freeze. And what it can look like, what fight looks like is not necessarily fists, but sometimes when we get in fear, our fight mode comes out as irritability. It can come out as being defensive against people, as losing your temper. It can also show up as avoidance, as fear or anxiety. I think about kids, sitting in a classroom that maybe have to take a test, and they're afraid of the test. And instead of what might look like fear to somebody else, they shut down, they avoid. It's just another manifestation of the same thing. It's a different appearance of fear than what somebody might think, because they're not running. Actually, they said it the wrong way. So that's flight. Anyway, freezing is the example I was just talking about, where kids numb and detach and they give up. All of these are manifestations of fear. Now, fear, let me go back to that. Backspace. All right. Fear, when it comes out as anger, as defensiveness, as loss of temper, as irritability, that wreaks a lot of havoc with our system. And so there are people now, how do I pause my share? There are a lot of people that are walking around with their lids half flipped. They're just right there on the edge of losing it, of that fear. And any little thing can set it off, any little thing. Now, we have, there's a whole TV show that's around what happens to people when they get in that mode. They call it snapped. People do things that are way out of their usual, of who they really are. And it's because they're no longer thinking straight, right? So what we want to do is be able to bring ourselves back from that brink before we snap. And that's kind of what I want, the information I want you to get today, that probably most of us are just about like this with all of the fear of the virus. We're just right there on the edge of snapping. And so we want to do things that will bring us down, that will calm us down. And so anger as a response to fear, when you're walking around kind of half ready to blow, right? Anger actually increases the amount of adrenaline and cortisol that you have in your system, and your heart rate goes up and your blood pressure increases. So you're sitting here constantly on the edge of flipping your lid with your heart rate up and your blood pressure up. And what do you think that is doing to your physical system? What is that doing to your body? Nothing good. Nothing good. It's tearing us apart, exactly. So screen sharing is paused. Let me go back to resume sharing. How did that happen? Okay. Next screen. So every creature has its way that it dissipates fear, including human beings. We all have a way that we dissipate fear. When that thing comes, you're getting on the edge of, flipping your lid. Before that happens, there are things that we do so that we don't go into full-blown panic mode. What do you think a mouse does? I want to see if I can see in the chat. Mice run. Yeah, I'm seeing people. Okay, so mice burrow, right? Mice run and they burrow. And when the mouse gets into the hole, because it's been afraid, it can now breathe and go, oh, okay, I'm safe now. And it goes on doing what mice do, which is eat and whatever, whatever things mice do. So let's see, the next creature we have is the bird. Anybody want to show? Maybe we'll do, yeah, there we go. Thanks, Mary Lou. They fly. Fear hits the bird flies away, it jumps up to a higher branch, and now what? Fear is gone. Fear is gone. It can move on and keep chirping and doing what birds do. Then we have the deer. And yes, deer run, deer run. Sometimes deer freeze though too. I walk in the woods, that's how I calm myself. One of the ways that I calm myself. And I've been seeing a lot of deer lately. And when they see me, they stop. Right? They go into that freeze mode. So yes, and then the fear, the danger passes and it dissipates. And the lion, what does the lion do? We know that the lion, right, exactly goes into attack mode, and that's what that's what those creatures do. So the next question is then, how is it that human beings are meant to dissipate fear? What is it that we're supposed to do? And Mary Lou's saying pray. She's the only one I can see. Let me pause my share here. Pause share, stop share, screen sharing is paused. I want to see you guys because I want to ask a question and see what you all think. Richard, how do I get out of this? Maybe Nita can tell me. All right, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to interact with you all on this. I will practice a little bit more with the technology, but I will tell you, let me cut to the chase here. People will say that human beings do all of those things, right? Fight, flight, and freeze. And that's true, we do all of it. But to really know what it is that we are hardwired to do, what we're supposed to do, we need to look at babies, at children. And this has also been verified in studies with our closest relatives, the primates. So when we come into the world as children, we're completely helpless. So we can't do any of those things. We can't fight, we can't run, we can't freeze.
Cindy?
Yes, ma'am.
If you want to see everyone, go up to participants, hit that one, and then over on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a small circle with a lot of different boxes in it, and you'll see everyone.
Gotcha, thank you. I wanted to see actually comments to see what people are saying. But participants' comments anyway. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Maybe that's it.
Just go to your chat box.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing that either. Probably because I'm looking at the video screen that you guys are not seeing right now.
That's okay. Just go through it.
Okay, yeah. So so anyway, when you think about children, we come into this world completely helpless. And so what we do to mitigate, right, to bring that fear down is we are hardwired to reach out to other people. And how babies do that is by crying. Right, a baby cries and that is the baby's signal of distress, which means that mom is going to pick it up or dad's going to pick them up or something. Now, other animals too have that nurturing at the beginning, but if you think about other creatures, deer are born basically being able to walk. It doesn't take them long to become self-sufficient, whereas human beings take a whole lot longer. I mean, some would argue, not even teens or 20s or something like that, where we're really self-sufficient. So what we are wired to do is to connect. You know, that is the bottom line. That as human beings, when we are in that mode of fear, what we're supposed to do to mitigate that fear is to connect with another human being. Now, I get to see that with my grandkids. You know, my grandchildren are, well, there's one that's 8 months old now, I think, or 10, and the boys are 2 and 3, and I can see it in real time. Something happens, one of the kids gets scared. What's the first thing they want to do? Is they want to run to mommy, or they're going to run to grandma, or whichever adult is there that can provide some kind of safety and reassurance. And once they feel that safety and reassurance, they can go out and be in the world again, you know, and keep doing their thing. So we get thwarted in that, though, as you know, as we grow, for lots of things. For one thing, we don't value fear. Right? Nobody likes to feel afraid. Nobody even wants to admit they're afraid. So we give it fancy words and we call it anxiety and all kinds of things. But the fact is that it is fear. So let me see, go back to resuming my sharing. I'm going to get better at this, folks. So connection is life for human beings. It really is. If you think about yourself when you have really good news, you know, the first thing you want to do, I know the first thing I want to do is pick up the phone, right? And talk to somebody that I love and I trust and that I feel connected to. The same thing when I have bad news, when something bad has happened, you know, it might take a little while to be in my own head or my own thing, but the next thing I want to do is pick up the phone and talk to somebody that can help me, you know, just hear me out, calm down. I read this quote to you. We're each driven by a deep urge to form an intimate connection with the world around us. And most of us do this through relationships. If you take a soul look at this, you'll see that your need for relationship actually stems from your basic need to overcome your earthly sense of separation. See, when we're formed, right, in the mother's womb, think about that. We have absolutely everything we need. You don't have to think about what you're going to eat. You don't have to think about shelter. There's none of those things. Everything is provided for you. That's how we come into the world. And then you come out and all of a sudden you're not, you know, it's a rough day for everybody, number one, when that new person comes into the world. But that's the beginning of that feeling of being separate and being alone. And so we're continually trying to get back to that. But in many ways, our lives don't really lend to that, or haven't lent to that. That may be one of the gifts, I think, of this, you know, that there are most definitely gifts in this situation that we're all facing. And one of those is to remember and to realize the understanding of our need for connection and our interconnectedness. See, we want to continue, that we have this continuous urge to connect, because that is the truth of who we are. You know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in our human experience, we feel separated. So we're continually trying to get back to that. The thing I want you all to really take away is the value of our connections. I love this. This is who I think was one of the great mystics. Thank you. And he suggests, the great mystic, Mr. Rogers, that the connections we make in the course of our life, maybe that's what heaven is. Maybe that's what heaven is. Let's see what I have next. So here are some ideas. Social distancing does not mean social isolation. You know, in those moments, especially when you're feeling that fear, you know, that's a signal that you need to reach out to somebody. You know, maybe it's somebody in your home, maybe it's somebody outside, maybe it's somebody with the spiritual center, but certainly take a moment to reach out and don't feel bad about doing it. It's what we need to do. And maybe there will be a point where you are that safe place for somebody else when they're in fear. The next really super important thing is to take care of your body. Take care of your physical self. Get outside, get plenty of sunshine, work outside in your garden, do the exercise you've been telling yourself you're gonna do, and take care of your body. It is vital. Feel your feelings, allowing them to just move through you. Here's an interesting thing I learned after having a panic attack myself. I'll have to share that story. But that your feelings, most feelings just really are in your system for about 90 seconds. 90 seconds. We tend to hold them. We tend to ruminate. We tend to, or the other thing that we do is to not want to feel it. So you push it down, pretend it's not there, and what that does is it keeps it there longer. It stays on the edge of your mind instead of being in the forefront, which feels, you know, to some extent a little bit safer, but ultimately what it's doing is it's just stretching out the pain is what it's doing. So in that moment, when you're in that moment of fear, let yourself feel it. It'll last about 90 seconds and it will pass right through your system. And then you move on to the next thing. Again, it's one of those things I see with the kids. You know, there's that scary thing. They come and they snuggle up with mom or grandma or daddy or grandpa or Uncle Justin, and, you know, they get the comfort that they need. And then they go, oh, I'm okay. And then they go out and do their thing. The other super important thing to do, to continue to do, is to maintain your spiritual practices. And if you don't have one, start. Things like affirmative prayer, things like meditation. So when you get in that mode of fear, the very best and the easiest thing you can do is just take a really deep breath. Take a few deep breaths. And as you breathe, you feel the tension in your body start to dissipate. So there's conscious breathing practices you can do. And one that's really super simple is like a box breathing. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4, and then you breathe out 4 seconds, and you hold for 4. So we're going to practice that, okay? Take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4. 3, 2, 1. Breathe out to the count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4 seconds. All right, breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Do that for a few times when you feel yourself getting in that mode of fear. Being mindful. Continually bringing your attention to this moment. Not spinning out about what's going to happen a week from now, or what's going to happen a year from now, or even what's going to happen tomorrow. Staying in the present moment is another way to bring yourself back down. And I know there's lots of people, Lita's one of them, that are teaching yoga classes. There's so many amazing things going on online of people sharing their talents and their gifts and their abilities in ways to help people manage through this crisis. So, go back. All right, now I'm looking, I can see the group chat. That's awesome. You know what's interesting? I want to give you another resource here. You all see me? All right. So this is the Science of Mind magazine. Oop, I'll hold it back here. Science of Mind magazine. And this is a publication that is put out through Centers for Spiritual Living. And there is an essay for every day of the month. There is an affirmation. And I want to tell you, I didn't look at it because I'm not doing the what many in the organization are doing as far as the themes go, but I want you to hear what the affirmation is for today. Well, here's a couple of quotes. And the title for today is Wired to Help. First, it's necessary to stand on your own 2 feet. But the minute a man finds himself in that position, the next thing he should do is reach out his arms. All right, so we've been helped. We get to be the ones helped. Sometimes we're the helpers. This is a time for people, particularly in our movement, right? People who see themselves as the light, people who are healers, to really step it up and to reach out to other people. And what that will do is take you out of your own head, out of your own fear, right? And bring you back into the present. And that quote was from Kristen Hunter. The other quote comes from Ernest Holmes, and it says, "As I love and cooperate with my fellow man, so does he love me and give his cooperation to me." Now, how perfect is that? Right? Without knowing that that's what we were going to be talking about today. And then the affirmation, "As I help, I am helped in my growing awareness and embodiment of my oneness with all life."
Cindy,
Yes, ma'am.
look at yesterday's.
Yesterday's, let's see what yesterday's was. Tuesday. Oh, wow, change is afoot. That's the one. Yeah, that's wild, huh? You know, I don't know how long ago they planned this, but it is amazing. You see, because it's not us that have to work it all out, right? What we keep doing is we show up and we do our part. That's what we're here to do. We're here to do our part and trust and know and believe that we're going to be okay as long as we do that. We do that. You see what the affirmation for yesterday was: recognizing my oneness with all life, I act in ways that uplift and benefit all of Spirit's creation. Thanks, Mary Lou.